Good morning, good evening, and good day to all of you. And thank you for joining us for that second part of our Great Invocation, a Voice Diamond webinar. Folks, I've got a confession to make. I suffer from a disease which DK has called meticulous entirety. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to cram all the information on one webinar, and so I've had to split it in two. So if I do go over time today, please forgive my disease. So let's go straight on to the second part. The topics that we will be mentioning today is what makes the Great Invocation a spiritual event, and is there a geometrical symbol which is emerging? What are the various references of that symbol in DK's teachings? Then we will look at the Great Invocation as a planetary event. Then we will see how Sirius is implied in all the stanzas. And I will spend a little bit of time on stanza 4 regarding evil, especially with what's happening in the world these days. And the last point is Sirius, the Great Invocation, and initiation. So last session, we concentrated on a particular sentence of DK. A comprehension of its origin, meaning, and potency will render it far more effective. So last month, we explored the origin of the Great Invocation. So today and next session, we will explore the meaning of the Great Invocation so that we can understand it a little bit better, and therefore whenever we say it, it will be a lot more effective. So what makes the Great Invocation a spiritual event? First of all, it's the timing of the Great Invocation. It is only available to us now for our use, meaning humanity, because of the point of evolution which has been reached by mankind. And because the invocation is so unique in the sense that it invokes all three divine aspects, being synthetic in its approach, this is the very first time in human history that this has been done. Whereas in the past, the development of mankind did not warrant such an utterance. So we didn't deserve it before, whereas now we are ready for it. So making it a spiritual event, bringing the energy of the soul and love and consciousness into the physical plane. So we know that the Great Invocation was uttered by our own planetary Logos when he expressed the desire to manifest, and DK tells us that it is so ancient that they are without date or background in any kind. But it wasn't easy for him to translate these ancient phrases, but he managed to do it. And it wasn't easy to translate these 7 word forms that the Christ will utter into modern, understandable, and adequate phrases. Now that's an interesting thought. The Great Invocation is only 7 word forms. And this is what Christ says every day. But even though DK managed to give it a much longer form to make it more understandable for us, they are still potent in their invocative appeal if we say it with mental intensity and ardent purposes. We see the importance of the mental plane here. Purpose coming from the mental plane and saying it with mental intensity. And DK challenges us to penetrate the meaning of the words, to penetrate more deeply into the vital meaning of these amazing words of extraordinary potency. Now, whenever DK mentions vital, he means the sense of life force bringing vitality. So therefore, we understand that whenever we actually say the Great Invocation with mental intensity and ardent purpose, we actually bring vitality into the Great Invocation. And moreover, its true inner implications and significances are of very deep import. This is what we are going to try to penetrate today and next month or next session. Now, he also tells us that the Great Invocation embodies a formula which has been in possession of hierarchy ever since it was founded on earth. That means 18 million years ago. Look, folks, this is so important that DK tells us or asks us to concentrate our thinking and to meditate on these words for one entire year. Can you imagine that? So how important it must be for hierarchy, the Christ, and the planetary logos, for us to really understand. So let's have a look at the very basic meaning of the Great Invocation. The first sentence invokes the three divine aspects of life: the mind of God, the love of God, and the will or the purpose of God. And the fourth stanza points out the relation of humanity to these three divine aspects and men's responsibility to implement the spread of love and light on earth. So that's the very basic. We see, therefore, that it is a spiritual event when we place the stanzas in a triangle. Let's have a look. If we put the first stanza on the right-hand side, the light, let light descend on earth, and the bottom part, let love stream forth, and the top, the third stanza at the very top of this triangle. We see, therefore, that the Great Invocation relates the will of Shambhala, the love of hierarchy, and the service of humanity in one great triangle of energies. Which means, therefore, that the Great Invocation links the three planetary centers, the logoic head, Shambhala, the logoic heart, hierarchy, and the logoic throat center, the minds of men. And it's expressed in the three stanzas. And the result of this triangle Two results, by the way, is the sealing of the door where evil dwells and the working out of the plan of love and light let loose on humanity through the invocation and through the power of God. So we see a very clear demand for the three aspects of divinity to manifest on earth. And if we put it, the way that we place the stanzas, we see that it forms 4 points. First aspect, will, let purpose guide at the apex. In the middle, the third aspect, intelligence. Second aspect, love. And the fourth point is let the plan of love and light work out. And the last sentence is let light and love and power, which is the synthesis of that triangle. And notice that the last word of the Great Invocation is earth. Always the emphasis is placed on the appearance and the manifestation of these three divine aspects blended and fused through the Great Invocation on earth, on the physical plane. So the Great Invocation is the embodiment of the will of the Logos. It embodies his divine intent and summarizes the conclusions of his thinking. That is his love and will manifesting through humanity in his physical body, which is the earth. Now, DK tells us that these words embody a formula which must become effective on the physical plane. Now, let's remind ourselves that our planetary Logos is a Ray 2 soul and a Ray 3 personality. Why I'm saying that is because of what he said in Dinah 2, that God geometrizes when referring to the activity of the second aspect, and that a subtle geometrical form lies behind the exoteric manifestation. We see that the Lord of the second ray, corresponding to our planetary Logos, Soul Ray 2, is the great geometrician, the master builder, the light bringer. And the Lord of the seventh ray, which corresponds to our planetary Logos having a Ray 3 personality on the 3, 5, 7 line. One of the several names of this Lord of the seventh ray is the creator of the form. So the Lord of the second ray, through his love, attracts the material for his vision, and the Lord of the seventh ray actually creates that form according to the plan, according to the vision. Now, isn't that interesting that one of his names is the bestower of light from the second Lord? In other words, he manifests the light that the Lord of the second ray brings. And another interesting name too is the fiery unifier. So unifies the will and the form, therefore through love and through light. So let's see then, what is this formula which is emerging? We see that decay uses the triangle or the double triangle many, many times. In esoteric astrology, he mentions the diamond-shaped formation of the interrelated energies that is the prototypal pattern which lies behind the etheric network. And as you know, the etheric pattern or the etheric network is on the seventh plane, is the physical plane. The etheric is only finer, but it is physical, and it has a diamond shape. I would really recommend that you read that chapter in Esoteric Astrology, page 460, where he talks about the transference of energy within the points of the three higher triangle and its reflection, the lower triangle. But this is for another time. But when we place the stanzas, this is what we notice. First stanza, let light stream forth on the right-hand side, or it can be the left-hand side, doesn't matter. The second stanza, let love stream forth in the hearts of men. And the emanating point, the third stanza, of power where the will of God is known. These three are fused and blended and manifest in the fourth stanza. Let the plan of love and light, which is these two main evocative points of the triangle, and the fourth stanza is the manifesting point. And the synthesis of these 3 points, light, love, and power, right in the middle. Now compare that now to the molecular structure of a diamond, where each carbon atom is bonded to 4 other carbon atoms. Interesting, isn't it? Let's look at further examples. We see that in telepathy and the etheric vehicle, DK talks about an initial triangle which was formed by Sanat Kumara when he came and he incarnated on Earth and he created this planet, and where the 3 major rays circulate: ray 1, ray 2, ray 3, will, love, and knowledge. And that the etheric, and he inherited the body, he inherited an etheric vehicle from a former solar system, which was a network of squares. And his work, his task, his purpose is to transform and transmute these squares into a network of triangles. So therefore, when he came 18 million years ago, that's what he started, to transmute the squares into triangles. And if I remind you, the triangle is the basic geometric form of all manifestation. This is on an objective level, on a manifestation point of view. But from an inner point of view, The triangle always signifies the soul, the three aspects of the soul. Again, will, love, and intelligence. And it also means, if we are advanced enough, the spiritual triad, the triangle divine. Now, if we go back to the diagram in telepathy and the etheric vehicle, this is what we notice if we join the dots. We see that it forms a diamond. How he does this is by creating a division through the application of the fifth law of separation, the mental law, but also by recognizing consciously duality. And therefore, when you cut the triangle in half, you see appearing two triangles. Now, DK confides in us that these words were once spoken to him by an ancient seer who bisected the square esoterically, thus forming two triangles and uniting them in a fresh manifestation to form a star of life. Let's see the various references of diamond in DK's teachings. First of all, let's look at the etymology, because this is very revealing. If we look at the French meaning, diamant, from which the English word comes from, we notice that it comes from an old Provençal word, aziman, which means diamond, magnet. And it goes back even further from Latin adamentum, meaning the hardest metal, and then later meaning diamond. And we compare it to the Greek name Adamas, meaning invincible, unbreakable. So here, in the etymology of the word diamond, we see the two lords blending and fusing. One, the Ray 2 Lord, through the concept of magnet, attractive force. And we know too that DK refers to the will of the second ray as tempered steel. And we also know that one of the name of the Ray 2 Lord is also the cosmic magnet. And we link this with the Greek name of being invincible, unbreakable. We see the Lord of the seventh ray. DK describes the etheric body in 4 words: the symmetry of form, the beauty of color, strength, and the 4th one, the compactness of the diamond. This is for him is bodily perfection. And he describes the etheric body as the true form, the one that substands the physical world. This form must be symmetrical, built according to number and design, and its basic distinction will be the geometrical exactness of its many units. And as you know, the structure of the diamond is an equilateral triangle, which means that all the parts are of the same distance to one another. That's why it's so strong. So the compactness of the diamond conveys the idea of the unity, the coherence of the three as they function as a whole. Here, the three stanzas, light, love, and power. The upper triangle. And the lower triangle is man being a reflection of his Father in heaven, made in the image of God. We are three in one and one in three. This is what makes this diamond so compact, so strong. DK refers to his higher initiates and Christ as the diamond-souled. And this is implied in the third stanza, the purpose which the masters know and serve. Meaning those masters who have taken the higher initiations, of course including the Christ, the seventh, the eighth, and the ninth initiation. And they, that group of initiates, they are called the jewel in the lotus. And notice too that the jewel in the lotus is called the diamond. Here. The egoic lotus, the temple of Solomon, the double triangle. It's in that form. But superimpose these two triangles, you get the diamond. And this is the symbol of the causal body. And we can see too that the King Solomon's seal is the symbol of Gemini. We talked about Gemini being the entrance of cosmic energy, cosmic love from Sirius. And that Gemini is connected with the heart of the sun. Here it's the symbol of the causal body, the solar angels. The Great Invocation, we can also, by placing the stanzas, we can see it as a symbol of the egoic lotus itself. The first stanza as the three knowledge petals, light. The second stanza, the three love petals. Notice that there are three lines in each of these stanzas. The third stanza, three lines as well, symbolizing the three will petals. And the fourth stanza, also three lines, symbolizing the permanent atoms. And the synthesis, light, love, and power, as the symbol of the three inner petals that enclose the jewel, the plan of love and light itself. We also see that the Buddha, the consciousness of the Buddha is referred to as diamond-eyed. Next month, we will see that relation between the eye in the head of the bull, the third eye, the light in the head, and the diamond. The rod of initiation is called the flaming diamond. And this is charged with pure electric force from Sirius and was received by our Logos, and it is used by him for the third initiation and over. The first and the second initiation, the rod of the Christ, is also surmounted by a diamond, maybe not as great as the flaming diamond of Sanat Kumara, but DK tells us it is of rare beauty nonetheless. Another reference to the diamond is the 7 planes of the physical plane, the cosmic physical plane, is the 7-colored serpent of wisdom, the real foundation to the diamond pattern upon the back of the serpent of wisdom. Again, we see it's the physical plane. Another reference to the diamond is that the symbol of the new group of world servers has got the diamond at the apex of a golden triangle. Darjeeling is the name of the town, which is one of the 5 planetary outlets for the distribution of the hierarchical energy transmitting ray 1 of will. We see that it comes from a Tibetan word, Darjeeling, meaning Diamond Island. So all these references to diamond is a reference to the will of the Logos, the fusion of the 3 aspects of divinity. So as a conclusion to this section, the fiery unifier and the bestower of light from the second Lord manifests the great attractive magnetic force of the great geometrician and the light bringer. So therefore we see the 2 lords joining forces, manifesting the energy of one another. Let's see now the Great Invocation as a planetary event to be used by humanity, hierarchy, and the Christ. There are obviously 4 levels of interpretation. One to the men of the street, the second one to the aspirant, and another meaning for disciples. And to the initiates and the senior members, they will convey an even higher and more inclusive significance. To the man of the street, it is meant to be a world prayer, expressed in such a way that all humanity could intelligently use it. And it will be used as the world prayer in the new world religion that Christ, when he returns, will be inaugurating, voicing the basic needs of humanity today, the need for light and love, the understanding of the divine will, and most of all, the end of evil, because we are sick of it. But to the aspirants and to the disciples, a different meaning. The first stanza, the 3rd aspect of divinity, having reference to the soul of all things, which is light. Light and soul are synonymous. So it's a cry for light and love. It's the cry for light to flow into the dark recesses of the mind of humanity on the mental plane. The second stanza, let love stream forth, the second aspect. That has reference to the hierarchy, but also to the astral plane, a cry for more love, as it's voiced by men of. The third stanza, the purpose, refers to the first aspect of divinity, will, referring to Shambhala, but referring to the physical plane. The intuitive appeal of the aspirants and the disciples of the world for the full expression of the will to good, the will of God. The fourth stanza, the race of men, the meeting place of all three aspects in humanity on the physical plane, to whom lies the task of sealing the door to evil, which is materialism, and to selfishness. This is a point that we will take up later on. The last line, let light and love and power restore the plan. The three aspects, the final restoration on the physical plane, which is the manifestation of God's original idea. That's why it means restore. No longer frustrated by human free will and evil, which is pure materialism and selfishness. But but hierarchy also uses it. And we are told, with constancy, exactitude, and power. Humanity and hierarchy, integrating as one. And hierarchy relates both planetary centers into a very new and dynamic way to the third planetary center, Shambhala, where the will of God is known. And the result of that first stanza, through the use of hierarchy, saying the Great Invocation, is influencing the minds of men, enlightening intelligent humanity on the mental plane. The second stanza is influencing the masses everywhere, stimulating the spirit of Christ and consciousness on the astral plane. And the third stanza, the purpose which the masters know and serve, is the anchoring then of hierarchical energy on earth, the physical appearance of the Christ, the stimulation and the distribution of the will to good in humanity, and the recognition of the divine will by hierarchy, that is a closer relation between Shambhala and hierarchy. So we can see how different levels of interpretation depending on who says it. Now we are told that the Christ himself uses the Great Invocation, and he said it himself on the full moon of June in 1945. But there isn't a day that goes by that the Christ himself doesn't sound it forth. So it tells us something, doesn't it, folks? That we too, we need to say it with mental intensity, with ardent purpose, every day. And now let us see Sirius being implied in all stanzas. As we know, Sirius is closely related to our planetary life. We mentioned that in the first webinar. So the mandate of Sirius to our planetary logos, to Christ, to our hierarchy, is to work out the plan and seal the door. So let's see if there is a relationship between Sirius and the Great Invocation. Let's remind ourselves that the stream of energy of cosmic love comes from Sirius, and this enters directly into our hierarchy, which is the heart center of our logos. We also see that this great sun is like the monad to our solar logos. Therefore, it would have to have an enormous influence on our solar system. But it also has a very peculiar influence on our planet. Because our solar logos plays a very peculiar part in the development of our planet. If we speak symbolically according to DK, Sanat Kumara is like the personal disciple of the solar logos, because he's treading the path of training for being a solar logos. So there's the link. Sirius, our solar logos, and our planetary logos. And this is why Sirius has got such a, maybe a soft spot, if I can express it that way, for our planetary logos. So let's see the first stanza, light. We see that Sirius is the emanating source of light, mind, knowledge. It is our hierarchy, the White Lodge, is the representative of the correspondence of that cosmic center of light on the Great White Lodge on Sirius. The mind of God is the focal point for divine light. And as we said earlier on, there is a very close relationship, or almost synonymous, of soul and light. We see that having pervaded this entire universe with a fragment of myself, I remain. What Sri Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita. That refers to the soul of all things. And that soul, that bringer of light, brings enlightenment on the mental plane. The second stanza of love. Sirius is the source of cosmic love. Christ himself is a Syrian initiate. And the whole of hierarchy is controlled from Sirius. DK tells us that the Masters uses cosmic love from Sirius to train disciples for the second, the fourth, and the sixth initiation. The third stanza, Sirius and the will of God. But then we might have to ask ourselves, which God? Well, the first interpretation is our planetary logos, obviously. Sanat Kumara himself. But also the solar logos. Because Shambhala is the center where the highest will of the solar logos is imposed on that of our planetary logos. Then we see that Sanat Kumara is the custodian of the will of the Great White Lodge on Sirius himself. So therefore, we see Sirius being implied there in the will of God. Now we can go one step further. It's the will of the one about whom naught may be said as well. Because we can see that our solar logos is the embodied force of the heart center of that cosmic God. So we can see the implication of the various levels of God. It's a bit like the Russian dolls, one doll in one another. The fourth stanza, the race of men. What's the connection between the race of men and Sirius? We see that in the hierarchy of our planet, the lords of compassion, the monads of love, are numerically greater than the masters of the wisdom. To be exact, DK gives us the exact figure, 35,000 million monads of love compared to 20,000 million monads of activity. Out of the 60,000 million human monads that exist. And that these lords of compassion, the monads of love, must go to the sun Sirius to undergo a tremendous manasic stimulation, for Sirius is the emanating source of manas. The bulk of humanity, we will choose this fourth way to the cosmic center. This is home for us, for the majority of us. Sirius is home. And again, we will see this in the next webinar. We'll develop this fourth way to Sirius a little bit more, and we'll see the connection. Scorpio, who rules the fourth creative hierarchy on the fourth Buddhic plane. That hierarchy expresses itself through the fourth human kingdom. It's under the influence of Sirius. And DK tells us that Scorpio is that great constellation which influences the turning point in the life of humanity and the human being. And for the first time in the history of both mankind and disciples, the energy of Sirius pouring into our hierarchy is evoking a response in us. So do you see the timing of the Great Invocation? Because now humanity as a whole is responding to the energy of Sirius, of cosmic love. Let's have a look a little bit closer at that stanza 4 of Sirius and evil. But before we look at evil, we need to understand the distinction between evil and imperfection, because there are two kinds of evil. But DK tells us that this problem of evil is far too difficult for the average man to grasp. But we can make a start. There are two kinds of evil, planetary evil and cosmic evil. Planetary evil is imperfection, that innate tendency to selfishness and separation, which is inherent in the substance of our planet. And all forms within that, our planet, is made. And unfortunately, or fortunately for the solar logos, our planetary logos has inherited it. And if you remember, for what purpose? Of transmuting it. The second type of evil is cosmic evil, and that type of evil emanates from a hierarchy of evil forces, which are the material correspondence to the spiritual hierarchy. Over millions of years, through separativeness, selfishness, materialism, which bind humanity and imprison the human spirit, humanity has released that evil into the world and unfortunately has opened wide the door to where evil dwells, to that second type of evil. How did humanity do it? Through thoughts of hate, deeds of cruelty, lying words, sadistic action, selfish intentions, and ambitious selfishness have created that pathway to cosmic evil. But DK reminds us that what man has loosed, he can also aid to imprison. How? DK gives us 3 ways. By fostering right relations, by spreading the news of the approach of spiritual hierarchy, and preparing for the reappearance of the Christ. But there is another. And this is encapsulated in the 9th law of esoteric healing. Harmlessness. Harmlessness is the method used by the perfect one meaning Christ, and that employed by good, who is our planetary logos. Both employ perfect harmlessness. It's not negativity, but it's perfect poise. It's a completed point of view, and it's divine understanding. Harmlessness for us means the control of the astral, of the emotions, and therefore the control of the mind and of the soul of the astral plane. So there is in us that which can transmute and change, which is the soul. Hence, esoteric healing, soul healing. So the task ahead of humanity is to close the door upon this worse and yet secondary evil and shut it in its own place. To cease treading the path to the door where evil dwells, and to seek the path that leads to light and to the door of initiation, which is encapsulated in the words of the Great Invocation. Let the plan of love and light work out, and hence sealing the door where evil dwells. So we can see that by fusing love and intelligence, heart and mind, intelligent love, which is Venusian love, that's how we're going to seal the door. Let's have a look now at cosmic evil a little bit more closely. So evil was defined as the domination of spirit and its reflection, the soul, by matter. Now humanity, as we've just worked out earlier on, has opened the door to where another kind of evil dwells, another evil which is not indigenous to our planet, and an evil that we as humanity it was never intended for us to deal with. It's too big for us. We can't handle it. During the two world wars, cosmic evil was forced back, and the door which conceals the place of endless death hides the countenances of the lords of wicked pride and hateful lust was partially closed, but not entirely shut. Its final closing and sealing is not yet accomplished. And we can see it now, 80 years later. It's still not shut. It is still rearing its ugly head. So who are these dark forces? They are certain units of humanity which existed then that were so completely conditioned by these material principles governing the first solar system, which was entirely related to the intelligence being infused in matter. And they were so deliberately unready from moving on and letting go of these principles and adopting and understanding another set of principles, which is governing our second solar system these days, love and light. But no, they remain fixed and of selfish material purpose, and it's a planned distortion of the divine will which was created by them. So they are the forces of crystallization, of preservation, and the attractiveness of matter. They are a powerful set of 12 first-ray personalities on the cosmic astral plane. 6 Orientals and 6 Occidentals, we are being told. And they are extremely powerful. The task of hierarchy has always been to stand between them and us, but at the same time to bring imperfection into the light so that it can be transmuted by the love of the soul, so that evil therefore cannot manipulate it, and to keep the door into the spiritual realm open. So sealing the door where evil dwells, from the hierarchical point of view, is the task of Shambhala, not ours. We deal with imperfection, with a planetary evil. We can do that. But the Black Lodge is the problem of the White Lodge, not our problem. Because it is connected with the will aspect. Only the will to good will suffice to blot out and annihilate the will to evil. And Shambhala is where the will to good originates. And this will to good is essential love. So this cosmic evil uses the imperfection in men for their own selfish and destructive purposes. So the purpose of our planetary logos, DK doesn't know, but part of the purpose is to liberate light and love into a wider universe, to free the solar system from the attacks of cosmic evil, the forces of materialism. And DK tells us that certain solar entities and certain great lives from Sirius are dealing with a problem. Obviously, with our planetary logos, because that's part of his karma. Evil, as we understand it, has got no place at all on Sirius. This is why making Sirius the perfect, I wouldn't say weapon, but maybe weapon might be the right word. Cosmic love, will to good, is the only weapon against cosmic evil. So how does the planetary Logos achieve part of his purpose of sealing that door where cosmic evil dwells? It's the practical application of the mandate from Sirius of restoring that original plan of light and love on earth. How? Through the race of men, the fourth stanza, applying love, second stanza, and light, first stanza, and through the masters who know and serve his purpose, third stanza. Goodwill is not enough, but how we, as the race of men, through the united, let me start my sentence again. By saying the great invocation, by invoking the power of Shambhala, the will to good to come down on earth, that's how we are going to help. That's how the great invocation will serve to seal the door where cosmic evil dwells. By linking the three planetary centers, humanity, hierarchy, and Shambhala. And that's where the whole science of invocation and evocation, that spiritual law of asking and receiving. If we do not ask, if we do not appeal for the end of evil, then we will not be able to evoke the energy of Shambhala. We need to ask. We need to invoke. And this is done through the great invocation. And the Syrian initiate, the eldest of a vast family of brothers, is the inner spiritual commander of the armies of the Lord. He is the leader of that conflict against evil. And at the June full moon, since 1945, together with hierarchy, they let loose this will to good upon humanity. So that 1945 is a significant planetary spiritual event which has occurred on our planet. And it is just the beginning. So hence, from the point of love within the heart of God, love will stream forth into the hearts of men. And not only at June full moon, the festival of the Christ, but every day as Christ says it. At sunset, in his dwelling in the east, in the Himalayas. The next point is Sirius. Initiation and the great invocation. Could the great invocation be seen in the light of initiation as graded attained freedoms, from humanity's first initiation to Sanat Kumara's fourth cosmic initiation? Let's see. First of all, let's have a look at the word initiation. It stems from two Latin words, in, meaning into, and ire, meaning to go. Therefore, it's the making of a new beginning, the entrance into something. Notice that sense of forwardness, that direction to go, action, right? It's not just a standing still. Go. So it's an entrance into something. And it is an entrance into the spiritual life. So initiation, therefore, it's an entrance into a fresh start into that spiritual life. So that's as far as its etymology is concerned. Now let's look at their definitions, because there are several ways of looking at initiation. One, it's a process of at-one-ment. Initiation is another name for synthesis, fusion, because each initiation brings about a more complete unification of the personality with the soul, and on the higher levels with the monad. So it's that process of fusion, blending, synthesis, at-one-ment. And we saw right at the beginning of the webinar how the Great Invocation was a very clear demand for the synthesis of the three aspects of divinity to manifest on earth: light, love, and power. In a clarion call in that very last synthetic sentence, let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Manifesting in humanity as the macrocosm in the body of the Logos. That diamond is at play again here. Another way of looking at it is expansion of consciousness. Initiation, we're told, is a moving out from ancient controls into the control of more spiritual and increasingly higher values. It is an expansion of consciousness which leads to a growing recognition of inner realities. That is, the consciousness more and more at each initiation includes the higher realities. So initiation therefore leads to one state of consciousness to a more inclusive state of another. Now, initiation is a method of evolutionary progress which was inaugurated by our planetary Logos in this fourth round, in this fourth chain. But this initiation is part of a planetary service. It's part of the planetary progress. And our planetary Logos himself is undergoing certain processes of training to stimulate his chakras. And in Initiation Human and Solar, DK mentions that it is the linking up of his heart center with its connection in the head chakra. In other words, connecting his heart chakra with his head in the heart chakra in the head. And let's have a look at this link between Sirius and initiation. We are told that Sirius is the great star of initiation, because our hierarchy, which is an expression of the second aspect of divinity, is under the direct supervision or the magnetic control of the hierarchy of Sirius. The whole work of our hierarchy is controlled by Sirius, and it's subjected to its cyclic inflow. The higher initiations, as we mentioned earlier on, are taken under its stimulation, because the principle of Buddhi, of pure love, of cosmic love, must be active in the heart of every initiate prior to the initiation of the great decision, which is the sixth. And only from the third initiation and over can the initiate respond to the energy of cosmic love of Sirius. Now, initiation is not just a method which is peculiar to our planetary logos. Actually, that experiment was first tried on Venus. And the success of this endeavor and the force that it generated was the cause of a similar effort being inaugurated by our planetary logos on our planet. DK tells us that it was so successful that Venus completed its planetary evolution in 5 rounds instead of 7. So initiation is not unique to our planet. And also DK tells us that after, and we hope and we know, we trust that it will be a success on our planet, another planet, Mars. This method of initiation, of experiment of initiation, will be inaugurated as well. Now, there are many types of initiation. There are planetary initiations, and there we are down there, the first, right up to what the Christ is facing, the 9th. And then there are solar initiations. The third planetary initiation is really the first major solar initiation. And that from the first to the sixth, these basic initiations are only preparatory initiations of admission on the Great Lodge of Sirius. Only the 7th degree initiate and over is either an apprentice or a master mason of the Brotherhood on Sirius. So we can see therefore how initiation really starts with Sirius. That's where that expansion of consciousness initiates. We are told that the solar logos is also to take the 4th initiation in this greater Manvantara. And so is our planetary logos. And in esoteric healing, we read that DK, telling us that our planetary logos has taken already, as a result of the 2 wars of the early 20th century. and it hadn't been anticipated by the directing agents of the forces, extraplanetary forces that DK is referring to here, that our planetary logos would achieve a certain goal so early in time and space as he has. So therefore, we are living in very exciting times, in spite of what we hear on the news. Now today, Christ is also facing an initiation. He fused the two aspects of light and love. And now he needs to fuse the third aspect, the will. And this is what he's preparing, the ninth initiation. He's preparing to embody the first aspect of will and fuse the three. So through the planetary logos, we read at the final initiation, which is the ninth, which is what Christ is facing, flows the power of the solar logos. We know that he's fusing these three aspects, will, light, and love. So you see, therefore, how Christ, uttering these 7 word forms, is a potent solar instrument. And it's designed to bring about changes and readjustment on our planet. So the Christ not only implements the will of the planetary logos, but he implements also that of the solar logos. But we also see that because Sanat Kumara is the custodian of the will of Sirius, so therefore we can see the line, the flow of that expansion of consciousness, that energy of initiation, initiated on Sirius through our solar logos, through our planetary logos, to our Christ, to the Great White Lodge, our hierarchy, and finally to us, humanity. And recapping what we said last webinar, the flow of energy from Sirius, cosmic love, hence of initiation from Sirius through to Gemini, to our solar system, to our planetary logos, through the head of hierarchy, the Christ, who's given the great invocation to the Master, DK, and who then distributed it on Earth. Another aspect of initiation is a process of attained freedom. The path of initiation has been called the path of liberation. And this is an aspect of initiation which has not been emphasized in the past. And it's very important for us to grasp this. Initiation is a graded series of liberations, resulting in the attained increased freedom. So DK wants us to study initiation from the angle of freedom, looking upon it as a process of strenuously, and my God, is it strenuous, to obtain the freedom from the pull of matter. This divine principle of freedom is initiated from Sirius, and it represents an aspect of the influence which Sirius exerts on our solar system, but particularly, we are being told, on our planet. Because this law governs the life and all the lives upon Sirius. This principle of this law of freedom, which governs our solar system and our Earth, enables the life or spirit aspect to free itself from the impact, the contact, and the influence of matter. Our planetary logos, which has been known as the Great Sacrifice, is under the law of I just lost the trend of my thought. The law of freedom, which governs all these lives on Sirius. And it is for this purpose, so that he can yield this law with full understanding and in full consciousness, that he created our earth and all that is within it and upon it. And at the same time to bring release to the myriad forms of his creation. So it's this principle of freedom which enables Sanat Kumara to dwell on earth and yet be completely free from the impact of its contacts. And therefore, an infringement of that law, the freedom of that human spirit, the freedom to think, the freedom to govern, the freedom to worship, is our inherent right, our divine right. It is running counter to that principle of freedom which governs our hierarchy, our planetary logos, our solar logos, and Sirius. So that problem of evil is a very, very serious one. And therefore we need to take it seriously. This tabulation of initiation, from the first initiation, the birth, right down to the 9th, is a series of freedom. From the freedom of the control of the physical body and its appetites, to write down, or not write down, to write up to all the possible forms of the cosmic physical plane, whatever that means for the Christ and for these higher initiates. So it's a series, and you can study this if you like, in your own time, because there's a lot to absorb here. And we can see that the rod of initiation brings a more complete unification of the personality and the ego, and has still, with the spiritual triad and the monad. And that the ceremony, if you remember, which is, no, back up the track for a minute. The initiator uses the rod of initiation, which has that diamond, the flaming diamond. And therefore it's through this rod that the power is being transmitted to the pupil. It brings about coordination and transmutation. And you can guess what kind of transmutation that we are talking about here. It's the transmutation of the personality to the soul, to the energies of the spiritual triad or the monad. But it occurs in the chakras, in the physical, etheric body. It's the transmutation of the squares into triangles. The Lord of the seventh ray here is being very active through the rod of initiation. We've mentioned this before, and that rod comes straight from Sirius. Now let's see possible implication of Venus here and initiation. We said earlier on that the initiation was first tried on Venus, and it was so successful that its planetary evolution occurred in 5 rounds instead of 7. But we also know that it's this success or this Venusian energy which was possible at individualization in the Lemurian days 18 million years ago. That Venusian energy. What is Venusian energy? Is light and love. DK tells us that these two, the embodiment of love, Christ, and the embodiment of light, the Buddha, they are the jewel. They've embodied the jewel Venusian energy, light and love. And we know another word for the quality of Venus is loving intelligence. In other words, it's the blending of light and love. So therefore we can see, let the plan of love and light work out. Is this an invocation to Earth's alter ego, Venus, for the invocation of the blended love and light to be manifested in humanity? We are told that during the crisis of individualization 18 million years ago, it was the intensive stimulation of the animal kingdom during the third root race, which artificially unified the 3 aspects: light, love, and power. It was under the activity of Venus, DK tells us, under the influence of Gemini, because Venus is the esoteric ruler of Gemini, which produced that great crisis of individualization when the 2 kingdoms, the kingdom of souls and the kingdom of the 3rd animal kingdom, came together, blended to form the 4th kingdom, the human kingdom. Now, if Venus was responsible or was highly involved in bringing mind and love at individualization, could we, no, let me back up for a minute, because the result of that initiation, that individualization, resulted in a minor initiation of our planetary logos. So we can see initiation as the blending, the synthesizing of these three aspects causes initiation. And we are told in Cosmic Fire that it enabled our planetary logos to set about his preparations for a major initiation. Now the point that I'll be making. If Venus was responsible or was the instrument of that first planetary crisis of individualization, could Venus also, through the plan of light and love, the invocation of Venus, be responsible for humanity's imminent planetary crisis, which is humanity's first initiation? The birth of the Christ in the heart of the human being. Would it be possible that the Great Invocation be an instrument to bring about initiation, the first planetary human initiation, where the three aspects, power, love, and light, through Mercury and Venus, one more time, restore that original plan of light and love, that Venusian love on Earth. DK tells us hundreds of thousands of people in every land have taken and are taking this first initiation. We are ready as the world disciple. We are ready for it. Hence the reappearance of the Christ. Hence his enunciation of the Great Invocation. So in conclusion, the Great Invocation is a Syrian word of power entrusted to Sanat Kumara, to the Christ, then to humanity, for the purpose of assisting the process of initiation. Of fusing the three aspects of divinity, love, light, and power. And I will go back because I've missed something very important here. Could then the Great Invocation be an instrument also of our planetary logos, taking his fourth initiation? But we can see that there are initiations from all levels. One, the fourth stanza, humanity, the first initiation. First stanza, light on the mental plane, symbolizing the third initiation of disciples. Second stanza, love streaming into the hearts of men. On the astral plane, the second initiation of aspirants and the ninth initiation of the Christ. And the third stanza, the purpose which the masters know and serve, meaning the higher initiations beyond the third. So could then the enunciation of the Great Invocation be an instrument of initiation on earth? I believe it is. So therefore, let's conclude the diamond structure of the Great Invocation through the process of initiation. To me, it's a practical application of that Syrian law of freedom. It's a powerful tool used by Sanat Kumara and his agents, meaning us, hierarchy, Christ, the higher initiates, to unfold the delicate flower of love and light and to liberate spirit from the pull of matter on earth. And finally, it is a voiced appeal for the will of God to manifest on earth. Now we understand how by receiving this invocation in its use and its distribution, we have been participating in a cosmic event of tremendous importance. Love of God demonstrates itself as the attractive force which impulses the plan and inspired by the purpose. All coming together. So to summarize, we are all involved in it. The average humanity, the men and women of goodwill, the disciples of the world, hierarchy, the initiates, the Christ. We are all concerned with this invocation, bringing the attributes of instinct, intelligence, intuition, love, light, power, will to good, all blended in these 3 stanzas, manifesting in the 4th, humanity, physical plane. And I leave you with DK's words. Have also constantly in mind this basic fusion, now finding voiced expression, and take courage from the massed approach to the source of all life, love and light. Nothing can withstand the united demand of men everywhere in their graded and serried ranks. And so join me now, friends, in facing 3 windows which DK himself faces as symbol of will, power and love, in saying together with hierarchy and Master DK the invocation. With intensity of feeling, with ardent action and mental intensity. On the note, we will sound it, we'll sound a blue ohm after each stanza on the note G, the note of love. So let's say together, from the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. And now raise your clasp hands above the head and say, and so let it be, and help us do our part. Bring them down to your forehead and rest them on your heart. Thank you, friends, for being with us one more time. And I do apologize for going over time today. My disease of meticulous entirety got the better of me again. So the next part of the meaning of the Great Invocation will be the next month. We will look at the Great Invocation this time as an individual alignment. What does it do to the individual? What is being aligned every time that the individual says it? What is the plan and what is its service in the solar system and beyond? What is the role of humanity in that plan? And which masters is being referred to in that third stanza? Is there a numerical resonance with the number 4, the number 5 and number 7? And therefore why? Why is that? What is the significance of the symbol of the cross? And therefore linking it with a fourth path of Sirius and the Great Invocation. And finally, what is the real meaning of restore? We will be looking at all of these issues, all these points next time. And next time is going to be the 10th of July. And then on the 23rd of July, which is the fourth one.
Nicole, the 10th of June.
Yep. Sorry, my mistake. 10th of June. And then the last one will be the 23rd of July, where we'll be looking at the potency, the last part. So thank you, everyone. I'm sorry to have taken so long. So perhaps we might start with, next time we will answer your comments or your insights that you may have gleaned through these webinars.